Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting serial installment of your favorite show, Blaster Pro Live. Tonight we are here with Blaster Pro and me, Disco.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful week. How was your week?
I'm not dead.
Okay. Rodney is still here alive. Matt, we're not sure if he's alive or not. I did see a random post the other day, maybe on Facebook, that's from Matt. But I still don't count that as a proof of life.
No, he always ignores me when I send him stuff.
Excellent. So anyway, how are you doing? Besides, you're still wearing your special sandals?
Well, they took a melon baller to my foot today, and it hurts.
At least they did not take the cheese grater to your foot.
They promised me a numbing agent, and then they forgot all about it.
Did I ever tell you the time I was in the dentist chair? I had a really wonderful dentist who is now retired, Dr. Lamont. And he was such a nice, sweet guy. And he knew I was in a lot of pain and needed a lot. He was booked solid. So he literally opened his offices an extra hour early so he could do two crowns and 2 root canals on 2 separate teeth. And he would work on me between patients. So he got an hour head start on me, and he had one of his assistants come in an hour early also, open the store early. So we were the only ones there. It was like the lights in that area where I was at was on. And he worked on me between all these other people and then walking back and forth. And it was real funny because I think he was trying to get the root canal done before, or at least one of the root canals done before everybody got there. The bad thing was the numbing was wearing off during the second root canal because it had been so long, and he was now jumping between me and all the other patients that were regularly scheduled. And wow. He saw me gripping and about ready to rip the arm. I'm not going to try to say anything because he has a drill bit.
Yep.
Drilling out a nerve. I'm not going to do that and make him make it worse. He just noticed I was he's like, "Are you feeling?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of pain." He's like, "Why didn't you say anything?" I was like, "You were in my tooth with a drill bit." I didn't want to say anything. So anyway. Yeah. So, well, your foot's getting better or not?
Theoretically. They said it's smaller.
Okay. Well, that's good. Do they measure it, or do they just say, "Oh, it looks
better"? They have a questionable way of measuring it.
Cool. All right. So, besides that, Etsy, once again, is still busy. I shipped out a bunch of packages today. I actually had everything packed up and ready to go yesterday because I'm a normal person and have to go to work on all those little holidays that the bankers get off, and the postal people and the federal government people and all those people get off, and didn't realize that Monday was a holiday. So,
well, holidays are a theory for me because I get 50 billion phone calls from people in the field.
So you get phone calls when you're on vacation. So
yeah.
So anyway, do they give you money back? Do they give you extra money when you're on vacation?
No, I'm salary.
Oh, so you still get your salary when you're on vacation, though, right?
Yeah.
I guess it works out. So anyway, I shipped off just about all the packages I needed to ship off. All the late December stuff is finally all done, which is, I have one more package I need to get out this week, and I am all caught up after that, and I'm super excited and really happy about that.
Yeah, you're never caught up.
And if anybody's commenting right now, we can't see anything because Hayden's doing a last bit of work.
I was just informed of this.
Yes. Oh, I know. It's my fault. It really is my fault.
Which
so,
one you like?
one that has the height on it. I need measurements.
I don't think it has a minute.
Okay, then just go to Wikipedia and we'll just look it up live.
That one's got a person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool one, though. I like that one. I like the other one that looks like an old school blueprint. It's got all the...
This one?
Yeah. That looks like a real blueprint. That's cool. Okay, go ahead and scrap that. Just go and find, do a Google search, height. There you go.
Oh, it says it right there.
Yeah, there you go. And it is
9.04.
9.04 meters. 9.04 meters. Rodney, take out your calculator.
I used to be able to do this in my head.
Don't even do the calculator in your head. I need you to do me a favor and get that in feet. Convert that into feet. And then from converting it to feet, I want you to convert it all the way down to inches. Just for fun. So
Okay.
give me the feet.
You want how many meters? 9.0 what?
9.04.
That is 29.65879 feet.
28.
29.65879 feet.
6566. All right, go ahead. Now give it in inches. So anyway, while we're talking about that, Etsy.com, if you would like to purchase a blaster, Etsy.com is where you'd like to go. If you would also like to purchase a blaster that is not on Etsy, but part of my inventory also, and you would like to purchase, you can go there, check it out, and then contact me through any of the million different ways. You can even contact me through here or through Facebook, and then we'll arrange a way to get it all taken care of and purchased.
355.92 inches.
355
0.92 inches.
0.92 inches. All right, 355.92 inches. Excellent, sir.
Would you like that in gear?
No, I would like that in
Bicycle.
hands.
Yes.
Okay. Also, this month's giveaway, we are going to be giving away the SE14, which is a Imperial sidearm featured heavily in, let me see, pretty much almost all of your Imperial officers are carrying it in the Mandalorian series. First time screen used in a movie was Rogue One. On the sides, the Death Troopers had them in holsters on their hip. And
Don't you mean Alien?
and it was originally seen, not used in the film, but it was used in some, I don't think, promotional photos. Actually, the first place it really shows up that people remember it is in the original Star Wars visual guide. Han Solo is holding it in Stormtrooper armor, and it looks like circa A&H time period around A New Hope. So the first time it actually was screen used was during A New Hope in the cantina scene when Ponda Baba lost his arm and it's laying on the ground, which is kind of funny because that's not Ponda's blaster. It's the blaster that's credited to Ponda is the DL-21 blaster, which is also the DL-21 Hoth blaster. There's a New Hope blaster, which is a Ponda version. The Hoth version is the Rebel version, also used by Dengar in The Empire Strikes Back. And there's an Imperial version from Return of the Jedi, which is used by Lieutenant Renz, you rebel scum. But anyway.
You said all that in one breath.
Yes, I did. And getting back to the SE14. The SE14 is canon. It was seen in A New Hope. It was seen in Rogue One. And it's also seen in The Mandalorian and possibly even Kenobi, but I'm not sure. I didn't pay that much attention. But it's been out there for a while. It was one of those, a very fun fact. The actual base gun for that was also the inspiration for another prop that was used in Alien. And that was the pistol they used in Alien. It was also same gun. All right. So that's the prize, the SE14. We're going to be playing 20 questions trivia. We haven't picked a topic for the trivia, and that actually helps me sometimes to come up with questions.
I can come up with the questions.
Would you like to come up with the questions?
Ooh.
Would you like to? It's got to be original trilogy. We can do behind the scenes stuff, or a combination 50-50, flip flop behind straight up screen movie trivia and then behind the scenes trivia.
You see, You and I both love practical effects.
Yes, we do love practical effects. And okay, you know what? Scratch it. It's just going to be original trilogy, arcing over general trivia, 20 questions. It'll be easier. I'll just do it that way. And I hate doing it because I'm running out of sources for just basic general trivia. Also, that'll be the 31st, last Tuesday of the month. So tune in, everybody. It'll be the very last day of the month and the very last broadcast of the month. And everybody knows that's when we give away blasters. So what do we got? So I want you to keep me apprised of what's going on up there.
Can you make it bigger because I'm blind?
Okay. Fix the screen, Hayden. There we go. You're sending me a Mando jetpack suite. I don't remember where that actually came from, but no one gets... Okay. So anyway.
That was a while ago. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you type the divided symbol?
It's in the top row.
This is not a jetpack.
That is not a jetpack.
Not a jetpack.
That is a proton pack.
That is a prototype proton pack. Say that 3 times.
A prototypical proton pack.
I don't see it.
It'll be over near, it's possibly on the right side. Oh, shoot, that doesn't have a keypad. It's a laptop.
It does have a keypad.
Does it have a keypad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it'll be over by the keypad on the right side.
Do we need a third laptop over there? I brought my other laptop.
Does it have a divide symbol on that one?
The divide key on those is like, I think it's like the asterisk. Is it? Anyway, I don't even know what they are on keyboards anymore. Dot/dot. Yeah, that's so anyway, moving on. The SC14 is the build on the SC14 is moving on beautifully. It's working out great. We will be going into mold for a lot of the parts this week, probably this weekend, probably Saturday when I have enough time to just sit down and start making molds. So once the molds are going to start making, once I start making the molds, we'll have them. I'll get them up here, show them off, maybe even show off some of the cast pieces and show the progress next week. And hopefully there will be some progress to show next week. Everything now looks the same, very similar, but there has been work being done, little detail pieces. I have to add in some markings for the safety and select fire markings, which are, I think, I'm not even sure what language they're in, but they're not like ours.
Is it pew, pew, pew?
No
pew?
Yeah, yes, those are the things. But like I think German safety markings are like F and something else. I can't remember what it was.
Schnell and 9?
It might be F and S. I think it's F and S. So, you know, as a English speaking person and reading person, I don't know what those letters mean. So I don't know what the select fire is. You just got to learn what the select fire position is because you
flip it and see.
Flip it and see. But actually on the MG34, there is a select fire and a safety button. There is no select fire button because it has a dual trigger. You pull the bottom trigger and it goes full auto, pull the top trigger and it's just semi-auto. So that's how that works, which actually takes care of a lot of issues, really. Just move your finger, bloop, 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 depending on what you want to shoot.
You do need to grab Hayden and check to make sure that I fix the 2K.
Yes, we are going to do that. This thing has been destroyed and then rebuilt by Rodney, then donated to the shop. We haven't filled it yet because Hayden hasn't come up with any prints yet.
I could easily. I just don't want to.
I was going to ask you to do
Parallax.
No. Yes. We will be getting away. Are you ready?
Limit.
Yeah. Are you ready?
What am I giving? What am I ready for?
For the drinking game.
Oh shoot!
There you go. Top right.
I actually got to make sure that this works. There might be.
Do you have an actual thing you want to do?
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
Okay. I want to see this. I want to see if it works.
Are we still in safety mode?
Well, hold on a minute. I don't know if I can.
So anyway, while Hayden's trying to figure out some stuff,
well, they might see it. Is the problem?
All right. What do we have by? What was that? that we had right there. Give me that back. I know what you're doing, but let me have the screen back real quick. Would it be cool for you to make the SE44C, the first order sidearm, basically a Glock in a chopped down carbine frame with a DL44 flash hider? Straka, I have pretty much, just out of respect for myself and my own sanity, and the fact that I would have to go back and watch the 3 new movies to do first order type stuff, that I am not going to, because I love myself, I am not going to subject myself to that type of torture. And I've decided over the years to keep my blaster inventory in the realm of the original trilogy, and I'm going to move into Rogue One, maybe a little bit of Solo, and The Mandalorian, and the Kenobi era also, because that era between Clone Wars and Return of the Jedi and post Return of the Jedi, pre-Force Awakens, is all still, to me, original trilogy feeling type space, and I'm keeping all my efforts in those areas. So I probably will never, unless commissioned, make any first order weapons. I've made a first order E11 or whatever, F11 or whatever those are. I've made one of those 3D printed one for some for actually Brett. But as far as making and manufacturing and doing stuff like that, I probably won't. Although we will be working on Clone Wars era stuff pretty soon. Just because I love clones, I love the diversity of clones. I like the range.
Who's Raging Mando?
Raging Mando, good evening all. Who makes that throne? Okay, this throne is this is a free file available on Yegi.com. I think it's a Thingiverse, so you can go to Thingiverse.com and find this throne. This throne, I believe, we were looking at the history. I think this may have been a scan of a Sideshow throne. Yes, I am going to do the long rifle. That's the standard infantry rifle for the clones. So yes, I am going to be doing that. I have clone armor. So eventually I need to make the weapons, and I have people that are also wanting Blaster Pro versions of the DC-15 or DC, whatever they are, the clone blasters. And we're also going to be doing some Republic Commando blasters because, very simply, because we have a Wrecker project going, and Wrecker uses the Republic Commando blaster from the Republic Commando games, and then later on the Republic Commandos that ended up being in the Clone Wars series.
Mm-hmm.
Live action version. Yes, actually, you know what's kind of funny? Because the long clone trooper rifle is roughly based on an MG34. That's why it has the trigger shape it has and the grip assembly shape it has. And my original plan was to actually take the trigger and grip assembly from the MG34 and use that as the basis, because it's very much more real world looking than the 3D rendered originals. They're very plain. They don't have a lot of that industrial kind of look to them, like they don't have any button, like in the grip assembly on the MG34 you actually have the fire select button, and it's got its own style of knurling on it and all that stuff, and you don't have tooling marks on those blasters either, because who would animate tooling marks? DL18. Nice too, like the DL18.
And yes, Daryl, you are correct.
What did Daryl say?
Proton pack.
Proton pack. It is a Proton Mini.
Yeah, we are working it out. We're figuring it out as we go along. So
anyway, tonight also, the topic of tonight, we are going to be talking about Last week we talked about scaling from photographs, and that's where we had all the fun with Parallax. Thankfully, we will not have to deal with Parallax with the chair. Since we're not we're relying on our reference to be, pull up the movie one, please. Since we're not going to be using photographs this time, which require the lens of the camera, which creates the parallax effect.
Hold on a minute. I can make it an overlay.
All right, try it. So anyway, since we're no longer relying on that, and we're actually going to go with a real.
Hey, I did it.
Cool. All right, try it.
I did it multiple times.
Parallax.
It's a small one.
How does it look? I don't know what it looks like on the screen. There. So can you do that? All right, parallax. You got to do it like, okay, do that. All right.
Hey, one.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All right, so since we're now dealing with a physical 3D model, and we will not have to worry about parallax, because the parallax is a deformation created by the round lens of the camera. So now we're literally not going to have to deal with it, and this is where the fun starts.
Couldn't we just print that really, really big?
Yes, if you have got $1,500 worth of filaments and 6 months to waste, you can scale this using the same method we are going to use tonight to scale it in your computer and then chop it to fit your bed and then spend the next 6 months printing it. And that is a totally viable option.
Not guaranteed to hold your butt off the ground.
No, if you print it right, I bet you this would hold you. Think about it.
I'm not doing it.
Anyway, so we will be scaling this, and the same technique we are going to be doing on this scaling. We can also use for models. Sometimes models are a great reference because if the modeler or the company who created the model has the proper access when they're licensed, usually they do have archival access at Lucasfilm to get into the archives, even now they're doing 3D scans of original props to reproduce. So they have access to go in and look at the archives, look at photographs that you and I will never get to see, look at things that you got a white glove. But the 3D scanning process is actually really cool for modelers because nothing actually touches the model. Once you set the model up, the scanner will scan it and create a 3D image of it. Then they could reproduce. On today's resin printers, they can reproduce almost perfect copies of things. And then they can play with scaling and all the other things. And it's a really cool time that we live in now, because back in the old days, if you wanted to get if they were going to do like a Y-wing, you have the screen filmed Y-wings. They were probably about 18 inches long, and they were kit bashed, and those were tank parts, model kit parts of all different shapes and shades and sizes. So they would have to reproduce those parts by sculpting those parts in a smaller scale. Nowadays, with 3D scanning, you can scale those parts to a new scale and have perfect copies in a different size of those parts to make a more accurate model. And I think that's really cool stuff that that's going on today. Yeah, 8K, look at that, 8K printers. Rodney has printed some stuff for me on his 4K that is just like, it's as good as the original. It is so accurate, and that one you did, it's going to be a product coming up for sale here on the Etsy page pretty soon. It's not a blaster. It's one of my very few non-blaster products. But you scaled. Do you believe, like I did, that was actually a scan of a real thing and not a render from someone building it, and
Yeah, because it was just too accurate.
it was too accurate. And then there's a section of it that has this old style, almost like a leather pattern, but it's not really a leather pattern. It's not a painted on. That is something that they put on it, or
yeah, it's kind of.
It's very hard to explain it, but the best thing I can say, it's more like a leathery pattern. It's just more
yeah,
it's more
fake
yeah
70s.
It's more pronounced than the patterns in the leather. It's higher and has more of a definition to it. It could have been like a little elephant hide.
Yeah, comparing them against the actual items that it was very.
Yes, the screws, the knurling, everything is just beautifully reproduced, and I really truly believe that was a 3D. That was a scan of an actual piece. So moving on to getting to for scaling a piece like this. Now, reason why I'm using the chair is this 3D model. This is not the actual one. Joe actually has the actual one we used when we built the chair, but our Emperor's throne was used because there's no one has ever. I don't know if the original throne even exists. So there's no way to get measurements of it.
I just remember the whole. Do you think that's an 8-track player?
Yes, there's a piece on here. It's right here. It looks just like an 8-track player. So I ended up basing, because only one shot really shows this control panel to the right-hand side of the Emperor. And that's because Luke's lightsaber was sitting there, and he says, "You want this?" So you only get a partial of what that piece looked like. But we're not actually talking about the detailing on the chair itself. We're talking about the frame and the construction of the chair, getting this to life size in the accurate proportions. And the reason why we use this chair is there's actually several other chairs available, but this one had the right look and feel. This really looks like the Emperor's throne. Dimensional wise, it's just spot on. It looks wonderful. So we use this as our model to scale off of, and we're going to go over another technique that we used, another scaling technique that is available to anyone out there that we actually used during the creation of the chair, and we'll get to that after we go through a little bit of scaling on the chair itself. So first thing you got to do when you want to build something, having a 3D model, 3D printing has just made model making, especially like large scale model making, a lot easier. It's easier when you have a physical thing in your hand that you can model off of. And when I was a kid, we went to Mount Rushmore, and if anyone ever has been to Mount Rushmore, there in the museum center part of Mount Rushmore, they have the original sculpt of Mount Rushmore, the way they were intending to make it. And that original sculpture that they made was used to scale from the sculpture to the full size carvings on the mountainside. And how they did that is they had they erected on the mountain, they erected an identical rig that brought a arm that went out and around. It would go all the way around, and they would drop a plumb bob from on the model, and then they would measure and scale up the measurements, because whatever the model was fairly big, actually. I think the model was like 10 foot wide and so many feet tall. So whatever scale the model was, they used that scaling to multiply all of their markings on the arm as it went out, and then how far down the string went with the plumb bob, like how far out to the tip of the nose on George Washington, something like that. And they could use that to get their roughing shapes And then they would use that for finer. They would do maybe 30, 40 measurements just on George Washington's nose to get the nostrils and everything correct. And they would drill and then hammer down to those depths and then smooth everything together. So it was a cool process, and that is the exact same process you would use to scale this to a full-size throne. And last week we talked about reference. We need a reference. Last week we used some real-life pieces from an actual gun that we need to scale up. We used the grips as our reference measurements. We measured the grip and we scaled that up to where we could get an accurate formula for scaling up the picture that we had. Now, on this chair, we don't have any references. We didn't have, when we originally started on the chair, we did not have an original part of the chair. Later on during the construction of the chair, we found some photographs that actually gave us one piece that we actually had here in the shop that was a detail piece on the chair. But when we started, we didn't have that. And the piece is that piece right here that sticks out. That is actually a piece, a crankshaft piece from the Revell Visible Engine Kit.
That's right. Always scale from your Revell engine kit.
Well, you know what? Here's the funny thing. If you were Mauser pistols are very easy to get a hold of them. You can get a Denix. You can call me up for $25. You can get a resin copy of a Denix. The Denix is a very good, accurate starting point, and it's kind of like the standard in the community for Mausers. So
is that our new measurement, or we just, it's
No.
5 Denixes tall?
No, that's not the measure. But if you were wanting to scale and create a Mauser from scratch, if, say, Mausers were not that common, which they are, but if they were not, and you had to do it like we were doing for the Ben Kenobi blaster, the Revell engine pieces would be the perfect place to start, because you can go and buy that kit today and take those pistons, measure the pistons, and use those as reference to scale the rest of the gun. That is exactly like we were doing, except for I had real grips for the gun. So on this, we don't have any reference. So we have to find some sort of reference for this particular item, for this particular prop. So what we decided was we needed one point of reference that we figured we would use is the standard height of a chair, the standard height of the seat of a chair. Turns out that's 18 inches. So we used the distance from the base here to the cushions on the seat as 18 inches. So we measured this. We found out what the distance was. It was actually kind of easy, because with the base already on the chair, you can take your calipers and just go from the bottom of the stand to the base of the seat, and we have 1.41 inches. Now, 1.41 inches...
Is there a key?
No. If you remember last week, your reference point is 18 inches. For us, it's 18 inches. So I'll put 18 inches right down here. So you take your reference, which on this case is the distance between your butt to the floor, which would be 18 inches on a chair. You divide that by the measurement you take from your model or your photograph. This time it's a model. So on this one, it would be so basically we have your reference, which is 18 inches, divided by, I didn't lock it down, so here we go. 1.41. All right. 1.41 inches. Oops. That equals 12.77. On this, I always round up. I only go 2 decimal points deep. So the third decimal point, if it's over 5, I round up. If it's below 5, I just leave it. So where we're at is 12.77. So you go to check your math, the measurement times your key, and 12.77 is the key now. So I take the measurement, which is 1.41 times 12.77 equals, and that gives me 18 inches, 18.0057. So technically it would be 18.01. So I'm there. I'm happy to work with that. So my scaling, the key to scale this model is 12.77 inches. Or so whenever I make a measurement from now on, like if I want to measure the width of the chair, that is 4.73. 4.73. We go to the calculator, and that will be measurement 4.73 times the key, which is 12.77, and that equals 60.4 inches. And actually, that's really good because 5 years ago, when I scaled this thing, look at that. 60 inches. I rounded the width to 60 inches. So it still works. So yeah, because I got the actual, one of the pieces we're going to talk about here in the future, but that's how you scale. And I want to talk about real quick, Hayden, go ahead and pull up our ATST toy. If you ever had the desire to create a full-sized ATST, we actually have this dream. This is one of our big dreams. And we had a long discussion about this, and we like the toy itself. Go ahead and pull the toy back up because I want to discuss the toy for a minute. The toy itself has some interesting engineering already created for it. And the reason why I'm saying that is if you look at the original ATST from Return of the Jedi, the feet are very small and it's a little bit taller. And it's not in the same it's not in a stance similar to the toy. And what we kind of realized was the toy designers had to take and design the ATST Walker toy to be able to stand on its own without falling over. So they moved the center of gravity, they enlarged the feet, they did all kinds of things that were would actually benefit someone who wanted to create a full-scale one, because what they did was they made the design a little more practical for a freestanding prop, because it's a freestanding toy. And they had to do it with the head being as heavy as it is. If you were going to build a real live one, it's going to be super tall, and you want to make the head as light as possible. So you actually get a benefit of it's rebalanced and it has bigger feet, which would make it more stable. And if you built it in real life, you would build the head much lighter than the toy head would have been, and it even makes it even more stable. So if you wanted to scale that toy, We don't have one down here. We were going to have a toy down here tonight, but I forgot to grab something. And the only thing I could think of is I have some Black Series. I have a couple Black Series speeder bike sets that some people have gifted me over the years because of the speeder bike pit crew and all that. I was going to break one of those open and have a speeder bike down here, and I just didn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to open those boxes. and so we just pull up the ATST because we have, in this right here, we actually have blueprints for that, or drawings of our own and scaling numbers of our own. So anyway, so before the show started, we went to Wikipedia, Hayden, and found out that the ATST is 9.04 meters tall. And Rodney took that, and that's 29.66 feet tall. And we turned it into inches because it's easier to do the math in inches when you're going to measure it in inches. And then once you have it in inches, you can go ahead and break it back down into feet. But it's always easier to work in inches right off the bat.
Because being Americans, we do not believe in the metric system.
To be honest, it's actually easier to do all this in metric. Metric just lends itself more to it. But the reason why I don't do it in metric is because a lot of the items I have around here are standard, and like bolts, nuts, bolts, and if I'm using a reference piece, and a lot of these props were actually made with standard measurements. So this being 60 inches wide makes total sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
As opposed to X amount of
no,
meters.
it's not a weird number. It ends up being like a whole number. You know what I'm saying?
Whole numbers are better.
Right. But, so anyway, so if you wanted to scale that toy, your starting reference for the toy, your reference number for the toy would be its height. So you would measure from the bottom of the feet to the top of the head, and you would get three, whatever your number was, which is the formula, your reference number, which in this case is 9.04 meters, broken down to 355.92 inches. And 355.92 inches is your reference number. So you would take the 355.92 and divide it by whatever measurement the toy height was, and that gives you your key. And from that point on, and you don't have to worry about, get ready, it's not ready, parallax.
It's not ready.
You don't have to worry about parallax because we're dealing with a real physical model or a real physical toy or whatever. Once you have this physical thing in your hand, you don't have to worry about parallax anymore.
Not tracing it with butcher paper off the TV.
We need more of that.
What's that? Butcher paper. We do need butcher paper. Well, actually, you need wax paper.
Either or.
Hey, hand me the lighter.
Sorry. Why do I keep doing that?
Because it's yours.
It's your lighter, and you're afraid I'm going to steal it.
So, anyway, if you were going to be scaling a toy ATST, just for fun, just do it for fun. If you had a toy ATST at home, we've done the research. Wikipedia, which we know is a valid source, reference source.
The A-wing?
Wikipedia says the A-wing is a mess. Wikipedia says that the ATST is 9.04 meters tall. You break that down, that's 29.66 feet. You break that down to inches, that's 355.92 inches. So you will work with 355.92 inches, multiply or divided by your measured height of your toy. That answer, whatever your answer is, that will be your key. And from that point on, if you measure the width of the head, multiply it by the key, and that will equal how big it would be in real life. And that is how you scale a model like this. And how you scale a toy, or like I said, I've always wanted to scale. We've already done all the work. We actually know that with the hatch open, the ATST is well over 30 feet tall. and we planned to have our hatch open because we were going to have a mannequin sticking out the top. Maybe a Wookiee sometimes, maybe just an ATST driver. But
Can we stick Matt up there?
no, because you remember the whole thing is going to be light construction, so everything that's up there has to be light, and it would not support a real person.
I don't see a problem with sticking Matt up there.
Leaving him up there for the entire con?
Yes. He'd be happy. You get to sleep.
So, since we're talking about part of this subject is 3D prints, you can take the model that you've decided on, and like I said, you need to do referencing your model. You find a model, pull it up. I do this all the time. I'll have the model up on my screen on the left side, and I'll have screen grabs on the right side of my monitor, and I'm looking at all the detail. I'm trying to match detail, make sure it has the detail. On the chair, it's not that the detail's not that important. It is important when you go to finish it, but the real thing about the chair is the shape. There are a lot of great constructions of Emperor's Thrones out there, and then there's a lot of them that just, you kind of look at it and you're like, there's just something wrong. You may not even know what it is, and you may not even be able to figure it out, but proportionally, something is wrong. We use this one because looking at it, it's proportionally correct, or at least to the eye, it's proportionally correct. It looks right. It looks like that's the actual thing. And I believe, like I said, this was a sideshow scan, a scan of a sideshow 1/6, I think, Emperor's Throne and Emperor, I think is what this was. So someone scanned it and then scaled it. It is a different scale than the 1/6 scale, I believe. Or do you think that's a 1/6 scale?
I'm bad with scaling.
We got the numbers right here. We could figure it out if we wanted to.
Do we really want to? No. Sorry, guys.
So now that we know how to do this, or now that we've talked about and figured, we've gone through the scaling process, and obviously reference on this one, you need a reference point. And the reference point on this one was 18 inches from butt to floor. So your reference, 18 inches divided by the measurement, which is the same distance between the butt and the floor. And we came up with 1.14. 18 divided by 1.14 equals 2.77. So everything that's done on this model from here on out, all measurements to create a blueprint to build this in physical reality, full scale, every measurement would be multiplied by 12.77. So that's how we scaled this prop up from this little thing to a full size. Can't fit through any door in your house. It'll fit through your sliding door, but here's the trick. You got to take the sliding door off it. Just take it out. Because you open a sliding door, it's still not going to fit through that.
What? It comes apart in two pieces.
Yeah, the base comes off. Oh, and one thing we did do is we reduced the size of our base. And we actually purposely did that because we felt that would be a trip hazard right here for little kids. Anybody who sits in a chair and their feet dangle, they're going to pop off. They're going to jump off the chair. And if their foot hits it wrong, you could twist an ankle, break an ankle, or just trip and fall off the chair. So we actually reduced our base to fit below the chair here. So our base does not extend beyond the chair. And that's really the only difference we made. Everything else is right on par with the measurements that we got off of this and our scaled up measurements. Now, one thing that we did do, and we're going to talk about this, is we used an overhead projector to create some templates. And I thought I would talk about that because that was a fun, and this is something I learned and did when I was a kid. I actually created a wall size, about 12 foot long beam blueprints of the USS Arizona. It's got the internal beam structure of the ship. And it was taken from a book that had a beam blueprint photograph, or I think it was a photograph of the beam blueprints of the ship. And I copied it from that book onto a transparency, and using a overhead projector, projected it on the wall, and then using paper tablecloths taped to the wall, I hand traced or hand drew, following all the lines, a structural blueprint of the USS Arizona that hung on my wall in California for it was massive. It was the coolest thing ever. And I remember moving from that house to our second house in California, and I remember rolling it up and putting it away somewhere, and I have never seen it since. It may have got thrown away. It got damaged, and I threw it away. But if it had gotten damaged, it would have been like, oh my gosh, and I probably would remember it getting damaged and I throwing it away. It just evaporated. I have no idea where it's at.
It sucks getting old.
Yeah, well, that was in the 80s. that was in the 80s. I wasn't even into the 90s. I was in elementary school at that point. So what we're going to talk about now is actually using an overhead projector. And actually, Hayden, we did some research. Do you have any of those ready? So if you're wondering how hard it is to find an overhead projector, it's actually not that hard. If you have local, you can probably look on Facebook Marketplace. You can look on all kinds of different sites. You can actually just punch in Google your city / overhead projectors for sale. We just went real quick to, is this an eBay listing?
It's eBay.
Okay, so we have a couple listings. We have a couple of these. This one's $30. I think the one behind us, Jeff bought the one behind us because we were talking about it, and Jeff's like, oh, that's cool, and he went and found us one. The one Jeff purchased is actually this exact same model right here that's coming up. This one right here. Jeff purchased it. I think he paid $25 or $30 for it.
But it had a bad fan or power supply.
It had a bad. It didn't have a. Remember, it had a bad fan and didn't have a light. We bought a bulb for it, and then we bought a $10 bulb for it, and he put a $3 fan in it, or he replaced it with. He replaced the fan in it. So it's been up and running ever since. I think $10 got us 2 bulbs, because I think there's an extra bulb down in the base of it.
Yeah, and I think I stole the fan.
Yes. So, or the fan was reclaimed from somewhere.
Liberated.
Yes, that was the problem. The shipping was expensive. That's why if you find it local, there's a few. One on there was like, here, you can have this overhead projector for $20, local pickup only, and that was on eBay. So these things are out here, and you can find them and get them for less. Jeff, so do you remember what you paid for it? Wasn't it like $30 or $35?
He said 20, but another 20 for shipping.
Oh, okay. So we paid $40. Jeff invested $40 in the one we have. And to be honest, we don't use it that often. We've only had it out 3 or 4 times to actually use it for projects. But when we have used it, it's worked. It's just no one has come up with a project. It's here for everyone to use. Okay, yeah. We got 2 for $20, so it's $10 a piece.
Where's the other one?
Oh, 2 for 4. Hey.
With $20 shipping.
Okay. So having this, I was hoping more people would use it, but a lot of the people that are here in the shop, or a lot of people that used to be in our shop that used to do a lot of making parts from just photographs. I'm mainly talking about the anime people we used to have. We used to have a lot of anime people down here in the workshop, and they were always scaling things up on their computer and then printing out sheet after sheet and then taping it all together, and then which is a totally fine and acceptable way of doing things. And I mentioned to them before we ever got the overhead projector that's how I used to do it, and they were really interested in it and thought it was a great idea. And by the time we got us an overhead projector in the shop, they were gone. Actually, they were still barely coming. They bought, But anyway, regardless, we don't have any anime people here anymore. But using the overhead projector allowed us to make full-size templates. We created, inside the chair, we created a frame system similar to like a boat. We had framing that went straight, and then we had framing that came off on the sides to make the pieces, the sections that actually 1/4 inch or may have been 1/8 inch plywood was stapled to the outside of everything. We used thin plywood so it would follow the contour, and it was following the contour of the pieces that we made templates for.
Is that plywood or MDF?
No, it was not MDF. It was actual plywood. MDF would work like this. We did use thin MDF on the fins for the legs.
Okay.
Or for the base.
I remember MDF being involved somewhere.
Yes. Let's fire this up real quick so we can get the bulb heated up. So I'm not going up there just yet. So we're going to let the bulb heat up. So anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few overhead projector slides that I created for this build. So in your 3D printer, you can pull up 3D prints. I used the NetFab, but you can pull up and use any 3D print software you want, and take a screen grab of the print and then throw it into Paint and size it up whatever you want. And with this model, we knew the distance between, say, the bottom here to the top here. So we could take these transparencies, and by taking the overhead projector and walking it back and forth, the closer you go, the smaller it gets, the further back, the bigger it gets. So we were able to take pieces of paper and mark the height and then move back and forth until we got the actual image in that scaling or in that size range. And from then on, we just drew out a template and transferred that template directly to plywood and then cut it out and started creating our ribs. So I will show you right now. Go to camera 2, sir. Here's the base chair. And if you look right here, right off the bat, that is 60 inches from this point to this point. So that shows my scaling back then was, it ends up being pretty much the same as the scaling I have now. If you look here, the distance between where the seat is to the bottom of the chair was 7.07 inches. We probably rounded that to 7 inches in the end, but I also, for real quick, if anybody want to take a look, this is the formula, the reference, which would be 18 inches here, divided by the measurement, the distance between here and there. And that same formula works here. You could do that exact same formula on this and just use this as a scaled picture. And since this is not a screen grab, a photograph, it's actually a copy of a 3D rendering, we do not have to worry about parallax. There's no need to worry about parallax because this is a flat, straight up reference of the actual piece. So there's that. Now, these are the pieces we use to create templates. These were the ones we used to create the templates. This outline right along here, this outline right along here is what we used. Actually, not this here. This is the cushions. This right here is what we used. And that's the outline we used. We made 2 of these, and this one right here is a different one. It's a little bit further out from that, and we also use that as a template for And we only templated this there because we were creating this right here. One of the, yeah. So yeah, we use these two for that. And just for fun, since we're talking about it, oh, here's a great one. I just like this one right here. Oh, here we go. There you go. There, for real quick, is the chair from above. And it turns out, huh? Yes,
so we can tell the different.
Yeah, that's done in the 3D model, so you can tell. It gives you that different shading for direction, the change of direction of the pattern. One thing we did notice on this model is see this here? There is not one on this side, and actually, there was 2 control panels on. There was one on the left and one on the right.
I remember these arguments.
Yes. And we found photos. And it's a funny thing. There's the 8-track. That's what I said. I called that one the 8-track. We could not find any super good references on any of these. This one on the right-hand side had 2 orange lights, or 1 red light and 2 orange lights, whatever it was. We created the lights, and then I created a scan. So this is what we decided were the things, because when the Emperor says fire at will, Commander, he clicks right here. So this was the Emperor's link to the Death Star. This is his command and control. We decided this side was all comfort. This is comfort settings. We had no pictures or reference of that. So what we did was, this was just gauges. Maybe they could be temperature gauges or whatever. These were all the gauges and readouts for the comfort of the chair, because it's the Emperor. So, he's got to have a slick, tricked out chair, right? But that's how we justified some of the things we did. And just for fun, really quick, the Mandalorian's blaster. This is the original Mandalorian. This is what the Mandalorian blaster is based on. The Bergman Model 1. This is called the Bergman Model 1. This particular Bergman Model 1 is the French Trials version. And personally, I believe that we already know that they did not use a real Bergman Model 1 in The Mandalorian. The only reason is because they're very rare and very expensive. So we know they made a copy of one. So, but we also know that they used, and it makes sense because the best reference photos of a Bergman Model 1 are of the French Trials gun. This is the actual French Trial gun. And the thing about the French Trial gun is the cleaning rod was removed from the gun not long after the French Trial gun was created. So having that there gives you another indicator that they used the French gun. So if I was recreating this gun, there's an article that tells you about the French Trials, and they put in specs for the French Trials, and the gun is 11 inches long. So if you wanted to scale this particular gun, you go from here to back here, 11 inches. And that is your reference to scale that picture. And this picture is much larger, giving you better detail. But you would do the exact same process to scale this one, although this would have a different reference key as this one here because their sizes are different. And of course, we have the above picture too. But that's just for fun. But that is that gives you an idea going back to what we were doing yesterday, talking about. Or last week, I'm sorry. This gives you an idea about what we were talking about last week on scaling guns, and this is just an on-screen example. As this is 11 inches long per what the measurements from the French Trial were. Yeah. And here's another fun thing. These are copies of a photograph. So what do we have to deal with? Everybody together? Parallax. These are also, even though these shots are very well done, they're not too close, they're not too far away, and they will give you very good dimensions. They're still subject to parallax. Yes, parallax. So anyway, any questions on the overhead projector? Like I said, it's a fun thing. It's something we have in the shop. The one issue nowadays is the overhead projectors. Oops.
Don't die.
I just got my foot caught. The overhead projectors, it's not like it was back in the old days when laser printers were a thing and very common. The inkjet printer has kind of taken over the printer world. So laser printers would print on basic standard transparencies with no problem.
Because basically it was a copy machine.
Yes, and they made that really funky smell. And they also, didn't they use like a carbon powder charge that lasted forever?
Fun fact, when you added heat to that, it stuck to anything.
Which, you know what, it's a kind of a sad thing that I think about it, because I actually had a printer that would print on, it was a printer / fax machine, and it had the gigantic, heats up, gets really hot, and you can just smell it as it's printing. Printer. It was at my body shop. And when I moved out of the body shop, I was like, what am I going to use this for? And I threw it away. The thing was, it was a copier / fax machine. And I could print off of that into regular transparencies. I would have to make an inkjet copy and put in to copy, but that's just a paper copy going into, and I would have been able to make smudge-free. I have upstairs a stack of 500 transparencies, but they're for the laser printers. They're not for inkjet. If you inkjet on those, it will smear just by looking at it. So these are new style transparencies designed for the inkjet printers. There is a side on here. Matter of fact, I messed up and didn't even realize it, but I took our dry erase markers and drew that formula for scaling on that one transparency. It's not coming off. I actually messed up, and I was going to wipe it off and draw it a little bit better. And I was like, wait, because it has that coating on there. And so these little dry erase markers that we have here in the shop for the whiteboards won't wipe off. They'll wipe off if I flip it over, it'll wipe off. Or if I draw on the overhead projector's glass, that'll also wipe off. But if you do it on the print side of the transparencies, it's just like doing it with a Sharpie. It's on there forever. So anyway, I hope that's information. I would love to see somebody take this information and just say, I was inspired